Hey, what's up, YouTube? It's Richie from Boston. It's still the 26th of August. It's still 2017. One of my subscribers just sent me this image. This is from the front page of the Boston Herald. Do you think they're trying to convey a message? I cannot stress this enough. Combined with the patents that I just showed you this morning, in conjunction with the water evaporation towers that were running all along the line from west to southeast United States during the eclipse. When the eclipse started to queue up, they started to obfuscate the sky like I've never seen before, and it was obvious, and it does two things for them. These guys are literally shutting down the sun. I don't care. Call me crazy, whatever. It's obvious it's happening. When have you ever seen an eclipse pop out of nowhere? Suddenly, it was the Great American Eclipse. The Great American Eclipse, it's all they talked about. It popped up out of nowhere. And everybody that trained their eyes and cameras on this event realized that none of this was what it appeared to be, except for the fact that it seemed like it was the debut of, we are spraying the sky. It is totally normal. Nothing to see here. Go back to sleep. And this is an enormous part of it. What am I talking about? The water evaporation towers? Well, I put this up a while ago, but watch this. This is exactly what they did during the eclipse.
One thing that research may show is that this doesn't work as well as we think. And one thing that research may show is that this doesn't work as well as we think.
Despite the cost, however, NASA does need to test these engines once in a while. So they built this place in the wetlands of Mississippi. This gave them an imaginary boundary line, and anyone living on the inside of it was offered a simple choice. Stay, and you'll never hear another television program as long as you live. Or take the NASA shilling and get out. Stay, and you'll never hear another television program as long as you live. Or take the NASA shilling and get out. No one stayed. And NASA ended up with exactly what it wanted. 125,000 acres of nothing. They even had to move 5 cemeteries, because the noise they were planning on making would wake the dead.
Now, bear in mind, this has nothing to do with testing rocket engines because these guys can't go up. There's no two ways about it. Also, let me just interject real quick here. They're not blocking out the sun. They're not polluting the atmosphere on an epic level for no reason. I watch a lot of channels that exclusively cover things like this right here, and they leave out the biggest part. The elites, the powers that be, the people that run NASA, the Nazis behind everything, the people that have slowly usurped everything by stealing all the property of the United States, the entire country belongs to others. It doesn't belong to the people anymore. They are terraforming the planet for fallen angels that CERN and other devices are going to try to loose on this earth. It stands to reason. Why would a human being, why would anyone think it's a good idea to block out the sun? And yet that's exactly what they're doing. But I digress.
Don't worry if you can't hear what I'm saying. I couldn't even hear myself. This is the loudest sound you could possibly conceive. And as it turns out, the cleanest. Now, the most amazing thing is that that cloud up there, which was generated by the engine, is just a mixture of hydrogen and oxygen. It's water vapor. And in about an hour's time, someone in Mississippi is going to get wet washing. It will actually rain. I told you. It's raining. That's unbelievable. Oh. NASA's playing God. That's unbelievable. Oh. NASA's playing God. It's making its own weather.
So that was an example of NASA's weather modifying device. They sell it as a engine testing device, but as you can clearly see, it's made to modify weather. It's known as a wet surface air cooler. These devices are all around the world and are used to manipulate and control the weather from the ground. Most of us are aware of geoengineering from the skies. We look up, we see that the skies are being painted much more. The geoengineering chemtrails include aluminum, barium, strontium, formaldehyde. They also will spray chemtrail flu to make people sick, big pharma.
The Niagara Wet Surface Air Cooler, or WSAC, is a heat removal device used to efficiently and reliably cool or condense various liquids or gases. One way of describing how a WSAC works is to compare it to a typical shell and tube heat exchanger. A shell and tube is a sensible cooling device where the process stream being cooled is on one side of the tubes and the cooling water, normally from a cooling tower, is on the other side. If you remove the shell, expose the bare tubes, spray water and induce air over the tube surfaces, you now have an evaporative heat transfer device known as a wet surface air cooler. Here is a typical wet surface air cooler system. The process stream to be cooled or condensed flows inside specially designed tube bundles. Water is sprayed over the outside of the tubes, and air is induced over the bundles in a co-current direction using fans.
People have actually known you could do these things, for better or for worse, for decades, actually since the 60s. I think the reason I've occasionally said that is that it illustrates the kind of power that this technology grants us. And I think, for better or for worse, what this technology gives us is this enormous kind of leverage and power to alter the climate, and to do it with a very small amount of money or material. And that power should frighten us, I think, and it presents real deep problems for governance. So, for sure, there are a bunch of dangers. There are both the dangers of kind of side effects like ozone loss or interfering with atmospheric chemistry in other ways. There's the basic fact that this is not a perfect compensation for CO2. So, for example, carbon dioxide makes the ocean more acidic, and doing these things to cool the planet will do nothing to correct that.
Let's talk about the risks of actually doing it on a global scale, because you've been pretty frank about that. You've actually said you could easily imagine a chain of events that would extinguish life on Earth. Now, what would be that potential chain of events from using this kind of technology?
Carbon dioxide makes the ocean more acidic, and doing these things to cool the planet will do nothing to correct that.
Let's talk about the risks of actually doing it on a global scale, because you've been pretty frank about that. You've actually said you could easily imagine a chain of events that would extinguish life on Earth. Now, what would be that potential chain of events from using this kind of technology?
If you talk about putting sulfates or some other engineered particle in the stratosphere, the issue is that a very small number of people in principle could do it and have this kind of huge leverage to affect the whole climate in this profound way. And that's what raises the very hard challenge of governance. The actual materials you need, let's say the aircraft and engineering you need to do this, are something that would be in reach easily of any of the G20 states. It's not hard to do. You could buy the equipment from many aeronautical contractors. But I think there are also kinds of unilateralism where you're not formally doing it in a legal multinational way, but where you do it with lots of consultation. And in that situation, what might happen is a small number of countries might do it. At this point, we have no regulatory structure whatsoever and no treaty structure, so it's really unclear how such a thing would be controlled. And one thing that research may show is that this doesn't work as well as we think. And one thing that research may show is that this doesn't work as well as we think.
If God created everything, if everything was made perfectly, what one entity would want everything on the planet dead? You can close your eyes, you can cover your ears, you can do whatever you want, but it's still happening around us right now. And I will continue yelling this from the rooftops until they extinguish me. Richie from Boston.